But I just wanted to check in about the whole Karlie situation.
See, that's what I don't miss about being outside. The drama, that's not what I came for. Girl, someone lost their whole life in the situation that my family was in, and you're talking about you don't know what's real and not real? You don't. I don't. The world doesn't know the full story.
I don't know.
Nobody knows the story except for the Gwinnett County Police Department. But you know somebody lost their life, and you saw my son's name and my daughter's name and me and my husband's name, who had nothing to do with it.
The silence of the Frost family was not merely a choice. It was a survival tactic that finally shattered when Rasheeda faced the crushing weight of a Gwinnett County indictment. This wasn't just another scene for Spice or Karlie Redd to navigate. It was a raw, unfiltered explosion that redefined Rasheeda's entire legacy in a single, heart-stopping moment. When the cameras captured Rasheeda slamming her hand against the table and screaming at Karlie Redd, the sound echoed far beyond the studio walls, signaling the total collapse of a reality television dynasty's composure. The consequences were immediate, as social media platforms ignited with speculation regarding Kirk Frost, the safety of the household, and the stability of the family brand. Every frame of that footage carries the heavy burden of Rasheeda defending her children against a world that treats their trauma like a Friday night episode. You can see the exhaustion in Rasheeda's eyes and the tremors in her voice as she forces Karlie Redd and Spice to acknowledge the fatal tragedy behind the headlines. The air in the room felt thick with the danger of an unfolding legal catastrophe, proving that for Rasheeda, this is no longer about entertainment. It is about the literal preservation of her family name. How does a public figure like Rasheeda navigate a fatal indictment while Karlie Redd demands a performance and Spice tries to hold the pieces together? So let's break down exactly what happened, step by step, layer by layer. This story represents a critical intersection of celebrity culture and the uncompromising hand of the American justice system. What is at stake here is not just a spot on a television roster for Rasheeda or Karlie Redd, but the multi-million-dollar brand and the multi-generational legacy of the Frost family. Mainstream media outlets often gloss over the nuanced psychological toll of such legal battles, focusing instead on the sensationalism of the headlines surrounding Kirk and Rasheeda. However, the true story lies in the power dynamic shifting behind closed doors where money and influence meet their match. You are about to witness an investigative breakdown of how one comment from Karlie Redd transformed a routine filming session with Spice and Rasheeda into a historic confrontation that may end careers. Stick around because the most shocking part of this investigation involves a specific set of leaked documents from the Gwinnett County Clerk's office that contradicts the public narrative. We have obtained a series of filings that suggest the legal exposure for the Frost camp is far wider than initially reported by the major blogs. If you look closely at the timestamps of these records, a chilling pattern emerges that most fans of Rasheeda and Kirk have completely overlooked. Missing this critical piece of information means missing the true motive behind the emotional explosion Rasheeda leveled at Karlie Redd. This revelation changes the entire context of why Rasheeda felt the need to silence the room and challenge Spice's mediation so aggressively. To understand the volatility of this moment, we must first examine the long-standing history between Rasheeda Frost and Karlie Redd, a relationship defined by a decade of competitive tension and public reconciliations. According to reports, the friction intensified months ago when whispers of a grand jury investigation began circulating within the Atlanta social circuit, affecting both Rasheeda and Kirk. Fans noticed a shift in Rasheeda's online presence as she moved away from promotional content toward more guarded, family-centric posts involving her children. The timeline suggests that the Gwinnett County incident, which tragically involved the loss of a human life, became the silent elephant in the room during the filming of Spice, Rasheeda, and Karlie. Karlie Redd, known for her role as the investigative provocateur of the group, allegedly began questioning the validity of the rumors in a way that Rasheeda felt was predatory rather than supportive. This history of playing for the cameras between Karlie and Rasheeda created a powder keg of resentment that was always destined to ignite. Every public statement made by Rasheeda or Kirk over the last year has been a calculated move to maintain narrative control while the legal walls closed in. By the time Spice entered the frame as a mediator, the psychological stakes for Rasheeda had reached a level of intensity that no producer could contain. The initial signs of disagreement were subtle, manifesting as professional friction between Rasheeda and Karlie during a rehearsal for one music fest. Both Rasheeda and Karlie Redd appeared to be testing invisible boundaries, with Rasheeda attempting to maintain a professional focus while Karlie dropped veiled hints about external stressors. At this stage, the tension remained within the realm of industry competition, as Spice watched each woman guard her territory with measured words and sharp glances. It was a cold war of status, with neither Rasheeda nor Karlie willing to acknowledge the brewing storm outside the studio. However, the conflict soon moved into the public view as fans noticed a series of cryptic Instagram stories from Rasheeda and deleted comments from Karlie that suggested a deep rift. Entertainment blogs quickly picked up the thread, amplifying the narrative that the friendship between Karlie and Rasheeda was once again on the rocks for the sake of television ratings. During this phase, early measured responses from Rasheeda's camp suggested a desire to keep the drama internal, but the public began taking sides between Rasheeda and Karlie Redd based on fragmented information. The digital discourse grew increasingly toxic as the community debated the ethics of Karlie discussing Rasheeda's active legal matter for entertainment purposes. The energy of the conflict shifted completely when a specific personal attack was introduced into the conversation, crossing the line from professional rivalry to an assault on the Frost family honor. When Karlie Redd turned the discussion toward the indictment and the impact on Rasheeda's children, the psychological impact on Rasheeda was visible and immediate. There was no going back after this moment, as the veil of reality TV was stripped away to reveal Rasheeda as a woman fighting for her soul. This was the nuclear option moment, the major turning point where the strategic documentary threat was realized. Much like the Diddy precedent in the hip-hop community, this move signaled that the legal system was now the primary director of the narrative for Rasheeda and Kirk. This escalation was different from everything that came before because it involved the permanent loss of life and the potential for long-term incarceration for those connected to the Frost circle. The fallout was swift, with the hip-hop community dividing into two clear camps as T.I. maintained a notable public silence while Tiny appeared increasingly vulnerable in the social spotlight. Reports suggested that King Harris attempted to de-escalate the situation behind the scenes, but Rasheeda remained under a psychological siege that made further confrontation with Karlie Redd inevitable. Specific screenshots of deleted posts and heated text exchanges between Karlie and Rasheeda began circulating across Twitter and Instagram, serving as digital receipts for the hardening public opinion. Fan accounts documented every move in real time, drawing direct comparisons to other high-profile federal cases and amplifying the sense of a family war involving Kirk and Rasheeda. The speed at which the narrative shifted from a simple music beef to a somber battle for survival made any form of de-escalation between Karlie Redd and Rasheeda appear impossible. Entertainment blogs served as the primary courtroom of public opinion, where Rasheeda's reputation was dissected with clinical precision and often without mercy. As the digital evidence mounted, the collective focus turned toward the psychological breakdown of Rasheeda, Karlie, and Spice in this high-stakes game. Analyzing the footage, it appears that Spice was the only party in complete control, acting with a strategic distance while Rasheeda and Karlie remained reactive and exposed. Rasheeda's moves appeared impulsive and driven by raw maternal instinct, while Karlie Redd seemed strategically positioned to benefit most from the sudden surge in attention. T.I.'s position as a veteran watching his peers like Rasheeda navigate these legal waters suggests a man keenly aware of how quickly a legacy can be dismantled by a single indictment. King Harris's reported emotional state reflects the burden of a younger generation forced to answer for the complexities of Rasheeda and Kirk's lives. Meanwhile, the silence from other major players acts as a strategic weapon, allowing the vacuum of information to be filled with the loudest and most damaging voices against Rasheeda. Now that the lines have been drawn and the legal reality has been exposed, we must look at the future of narrative control in the digital age. Did Karlie Redd cross an unforgivable line by questioning the reality of a fatal situation, or was she simply doing her job? Does Rasheeda's emotional snap protect the Frost family's dignity, or does it inadvertently confirm the severity of the pressures they are facing? Finally, in a culture that thrives on the downfall of its icons, can Rasheeda truly survive the weight of a federal indictment while the cameras are still rolling? The reality is that in the modern landscape of hip-hop and television, whoever controls the story of Rasheeda and Karlie Redd ultimately controls the outcome.